Turn with me to 1 Samuel chapter 30. I again apologize for my voice. I've had some sinus drainage that seems to have run along my vocal cords. I feel fine, just sound horrible. 1 Samuel chapter 30. I do have a lot of travel coming up in the next 2 months, so I don't think I'm going to try to start any series except for the one on Sunday morning. That can easily kind of be a one-off. So I'll be here this Wednesday night, next Wednesday night, then we fly out next Thursday to go to the Bay Area of California to preach for 3 days. And we're back the following Wednesday, so you'll just miss us over the weekend. And then we come back, have Dr. Scott, and then I go to Uganda, then to England and Scotland, and back. And then we have Dr. Jacobs, and it's like Thanksgiving, then it's another trip to Michigan. So a lot of coming and going. It'll be a really good opportunity for you guys to see how deep your roots go in doing the Word of God. Listen to Pastor Caleb's message from last Wednesday. He did an amazing job. I hadn't told him yet. I told a few of the older folks. We listened to him driving across Wyoming Thursday, and what he was saying reminded me so much of how Pastor Vaughn used to have to deal with religion in this region. It just, if it wasn't his voice and his accent, I said, that's a Pastor Vaughn message. But dealing with religion, there's only one way to deal with it. That's to expose its hypocrisy and really its attitude. So I like what he said about, we give God our works, but the world our heart. And that has to be avoided. It's easy to check boxes. That's how adultery starts. You sit next to your spouse and your heart is in the back of the room with somebody else. And that's how spiritual adultery starts. You're in the house of God doing the work of God, but your heart is somewhere else. So anyway, a lot of word being taught here even in my absence. Make sure you hear it and do it, and God will bless you. What I want to talk tonight about, the Lord was dealing with me in prayer as we were praying today. I want to try to help us deal with our emotions tonight. Now, the message will be good because it's from the Scriptures. The message will do you no good if you don't act on it. And the overall, if I were to give you the summary before we preach it, if I were to give you the AI summary, to summarize it, your emotions are yours to control. And your emotions are your servant. Now, that's not how we operate. We serve our emotions, and that's wrong. And we use our emotions as an excuse to act like fools. I was just so mad. I was just so hurt. I was just so jealous. We even have crimes of passion, and people get off on murder because it was a crime of passion, or maybe it's a lesser crime. But we don't get to use these emotions as an excuse. Even the one where you just can't help who you fall in love with. Hogwash. It's a lie from the pit of hell. Because the natural progression of that logic is, I just couldn't help, I fell in love with my dog, which is happening in our nation. I just couldn't help fall in love with that horse. Just couldn't help fall in love with that robot. You make up the perversion. Those are emotions that the Bible teaches us we can and must control. We all have emotions, and when a child is about, honestly, a month or two old, they learn how to use them to control things. That baby learns real quick how to call and get mama to come. And there was a famous study of the Romanian communist orphanages in the 80s where they didn't have workers, and they neglected a whole generation of orphans, and those babies learned to not cry anymore. Because they learn cognitively, even at 1 and 2 and 3 months, if I cry, nobody comes. So they would tour these orphanages and there would be no noise to be heard. They had learned their emotions don't produce anything, so why cry? And those children grew up very dysfunctional, very weird. They had teenagers who were still peeing in buckets and messing themselves. Some of the babies even died because they were never touched. And neuroscience later proved that bodies, organisms, living life has to be touched to develop. Babies have to be touched for their organs to develop. So that's a whole other discussion for another time. We talked about it a couple years ago when we taught on neuroscience, and somehow we made that fit the kingdom, and it worked pretty good. When it comes to our emotions, what we're going to see tonight is that you control them. They are to be your servant. You command them. They can turn on a dime. If you don't control them, they will control you, and they will make you turn on a dime. Brother Hagin used to say, natural human love will turn to hate overnight. And that is an emotion turning on a dime. And we're not called to be that way. So I'm going to show you a couple verses. Some of it I've taught 100 times before, but the power of pastoring is repetition. When I did train judo and jiu-jitsu, even the last time I got to go train judo was 2009, I think. And I went back to my old dojo, Lake Ridge Shinyo Academy in Maryville, and they were in there still doing the same stuff we did 10 years prior. And line up. Let's load Ippon Seoinage. Load up. Let's try Morote Seoinage. Load up. Fit in. No throws. Just doing the same stuff. And it was fun to go back there and practice all the old throws again. Power of pastoring is repetition. We're hearing it again because we're failing at it. Amen. Or maybe we just need practice at it. So 1 Samuel chapter 30, familiar passage hopefully to you. Here's the story of David on the run. He and his mighty men of valor, there's 600 of them now, and wives and children. They are marauding the Philistine country, and they have a hideout called Ziklag. And they go off and they do some marauding and some raiding, and they're kind of raining havoc on the Philistines in anticipation of David's one day of being king. He's kind of getting ahead of the game, and we could all learn from that. But why wait to be married to act like you're married in maturity? Why wait to be in the ministry to act like you're in the ministry? Why wait to kill Philistines till you're the king and that's your job is to kill Philistines? Get a jump start on it. Why wait till you can drive to be responsible? We often wait. We say in our heart, I'll do better when I'm given better. You'll never have better. So I like David. He's not even king yet, and he can't help but just kill Philistines and put down the enemies of Israel, though it's not technically his responsibility yet, but it needs to be done, and Saul ain't doing it. So they go off and they come back, verse 1. And it came to pass when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag and smitten Ziklag and burned it with fire. Now that's not good. That's like coming home to your homestead and you can see it smoking. So think about 600 men, all men of war. And if the fortress is on fire, your heart instantly worries about your wife and your kids. These are all younger men. They've all got young, pretty wives, you assume so, and they've all got kids, less than teenagers, because if they're teenagers, they're among the company of warriors. So now we're dealing with all children. And your fortress, which was supposed to protect your wife and kids, did not do well. Instantly, we go from the triumph of battle to the despair of I've lost everything. If Ziklag's on fire, your belongings are gone or burned. If Ziklag's on fire, the children have been murdered or kidnapped. You women have been raped and murdered or have been kidnapped. You can see off the bat, verse 1 gives us this tremendous emotional pendulum. We come back cocky because we're with David and we're unstoppable at this point. And we come around the corner, maybe they ride around the ravine and there's Ziklag and it's on fire. And you go from, yes, we're unstoppable to, what? And here is the beginning of emotions. Now, you are always operating in emotions. Whether you realize it or not, you always have an emotion running. There is no neutral emotion. Even the deadbeat dad who is a stoic bump on a log, that's an emotion. And it's just as helpful or detrimental as anger or joy can be. We have to recognize that unless we're asleep, we're operating in some emotion. Meh is an emotion. It's called apathy. And meh can often destroy lives. I was helping a guy once, and he came to me, he said, Pastor, what do you think my problem is? I said, you're not passionate about anything. And I said, one word describes you. You're just kind of like, meh. He said, really? I said, yeah, it's horrible. So we started praying, and together, we started meeting regularly together in my office, and we would pray. So we had lists about diligence and passion and zeal. I said, after maybe 2 or 3 times of a meeting once a month and praying, I said, have you ever been excited about anything? And his honest answer was, I don't think so. He said, no, wait. There was one time I wanted to make this sports team. I was really excited about that. And I said, well, did you make it? He said, no, I didn't. I said, how'd you feel after that? He said, meh. I said, that's what I'm talking about. This is what your wife hates about you. You're going to have to find some passion. But even meh is an emotional disposition. And this is how you cope with disappointment. If I don't get excited, I can't be disappointed, so I'll just never be excited, so I don't ever have to be disappointed. Come on, dude, you got a pulse. Why are you benumbing this thing called emotions that God gave you? It's a beautiful, wonderful thing. It makes life vibrant. You just have to know how to harness it. And there's no emotion that in and of itself is a sin. It's the misuse and misapplication of the emotion that becomes sinful. And then the action that follows out of that misuse that becomes a sinful action. So, verse 1, it's burned with fire. What they've been doing to the Philistines has now happened to them. And their emotions, as you can anticipate, is going to swing hard. Verse 2. And had they taken the women captives that were therein, and they slew not any, either great or small, but carried them away and went on their way. But they didn't know that till they went into Ziklag. How do they know that? There weren't any bodies. No bodies to be found. So they have a momentary reprieve. Well, there's no bodies, which means they're not dead here. So now their brain ratchets to another emotion. A little bit of hope, because everybody's not here, which means they have to be somewhere, but then your brain shifts to rape, slavery. All right, maybe it was better that they were dead. All right, you can see these men are emotional. Everybody would be emotional. So David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives. So that's what they assess. If they're not here, they've been enslaved. That's what they did back then. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no power to weep. Again, verse 29, they're just absolutely they're on top of things. They're fighting with the Philistines, and they turn back and get turned away. They're doing all sorts of damage. And now they go from conquering and maybe a little bit of, maybe their tails are tucked because the Philistine kings have turned them away. Now they're sorrowful and they're weeping until there's no strength left to weep. How long does that last? Is that a couple hours maybe? I've been to weddings, been to funerals, been to weddings, been to funerals where people wept and wailed. Most of the time in our circles, people die and we're ready for it. And there's sorrow, but there's not a wailing of a premature death. I don't know, maybe you could wail for 3 or 4 hours. We in the West don't mourn and wail like other cultures do. I've seen videos. I've only been to the Middle East once, been to Africa a lot. Haven't been in any sorrowful conditions in Africa, but I've seen footage in the Middle East where they do wail and tear at their face and throw dust on themselves. That's part of their mourning process. We just wear black and mope for 6 years. I think that's how we cope in the West. I don't think that's healthy at all. I think tearing at your face and throwing dust in your face and being over it in a couple days is a better way of going about it. That aside, let's just say 3 or 4 hours. I don't know. How long do you wail till you have no power to wail? Now my question is this: how much further are the Amalekites away now? How much further have they moved with your wife, your women, and your children while you sat down and felt sorry for yourself? Is the emotion acceptable? Yes. Is the action it motivated acceptable? No. You've wasted time. And you now have no energy. This is why we have to begin to control our emotions and bring them in subjection to the Word of God. Now, we know the end of the story. God's going to prevail here for David, but it could have happened sooner. And these stories are written for our example. What if they don't pull this out? What if the window of time was maybe only a 2 or 3 hour window to turn this thing around, and they're just weeping and wailing because it's easier? And one of the things it does show is, as mighty as these men are in battle, they're also emotionally unstable. There's nothing wrong with emotions. There's a lot wrong with being emotionally unstable. And you won't know how unstable you are until the emotions are activated. And it's why you also need people in your life that can look at you and say, you're acting a little crazy, or that's enough of that. Now, in a household, you do that with your kids, correct? Dry that up. That ain't worth crying about. We're not laughing at that. That ain't funny. That boy hurt himself. You're teaching your children how to use their emotions in appropriate times. Why do you think that? Why would we think that would ever stop in our life as an adult? We have learned from our culture through propriety, maybe through biblical morality, how to help our children use their emotions. We don't make fun of that boy. Don't stare at that. Don't laugh at that. We're not going to be jealous. We're going to rejoice that our sister got the gold medal. And we are teaching our children what emotions to use when. It's like the Swiss Army knife we talked about Sunday. You got to know what the emotion is for what. And we have to be reminded of that over and over again as children. It doesn't stop when we become adults. It's just bigger problems. So they're mighty. If you remember, these men of valor went from being terrified and distressed. Now they're confident. And it just seems like they go from one extreme to the next. Cowering in caves. Now we don't mind to even run with the Philistines and kill them behind their back when they're not looking. And now we're falling apart, weeping like women for hours. We have to be balanced in all of this so that we know how to move from one stage to the next stage, from one event to the next event. One of the things your out of control emotions will do is it'll waste time in your life. Ultimately, it can demote you or prolong your promotion. You're going to have to learn how to get a hold of your emotions. If you're emotionally unstable, your boss is going to fire you. If you're emotionally unstable, police interaction could go south pretty quick. If you're emotionally unstable, the coach may bench you because you don't need a hothead out there yelling at the ref. You don't need the team penalized for unsportsmanlike conduct. And we often hear that expression, cooler heads will prevail. These are all just human adages that are communicating biblical truths. Let's keep reading. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. And David's 2 wives were taken captives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess and Abigail the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. Now they say that so you understand David is just as hurting as everybody else. Why would we add that he has 2 wives missing? Because he hurts too. He is in the same boat as the men. Verse 6, and David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him. Now, here we are into another emotional tangent. We go from victory to sorrow, now murder. That's anger. What a bunch of Looney Tunes. And this is the mighty men of valor, 600 of them. So now on top of David being sad that his 2 wives are gone, now he's got to worry about these 600 men who he has made, because they were nothing without David, and he's made them what they are. Now they want to kill him. So we got distress. We got 3 emotions so far. Sorrow, so sorrowful, we don't have the strength to weep anymore. Then distress, because David is full of anxiety, because now the men speak of murder. This is an emotional mess, and none of it solves the problem at hand. None of these emotions solve the problem at hand. What's the problem at hand? Our wives and our children have been kidnapped. So let's blame David, even though his wives and kids are missing. If you don't learn to get a hold of your emotions when they flare up, you're going to lose momentum. And that's why the devil has studied every one of us. He has a dossier on us. He knows where the chink in our armor is. He knows where to hit us. He knows our Achilles heel. You pick your little maxim, your little expression. He knows how to hit us to activate our emotions to bring us to a screeching halt. David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved. And that's the word bitter. So now we're into another emotion. What a bunch of sissy men. Anger, sorrow, murder, bitter. Meanwhile, why are you all this? My wife and my kids, my wife and my kids. Well, why sit we here playing sorority sister? You're a mighty man of valor. Grab your sword and get to running. Oh, no, I'd rather take this out on David. Why? His wives are gone too. He's just like you, and he made you. What? This shows you the insanity that sets in when your emotions are not regulated. When you get emotional, when you become a hothead, when you become upset, frustrated, bitter, jealous, offended, stupidity washes over you and you start rashly moving You take rash vows, make rash actions, and it's just going to hurt things. Where will these guys be if they kill David? They will never recover anything. We know the story here in 2 more verses. David resets himself, gets the linen ephod from the priest, inquires, God, what shall I do? Because that's the answer. That's always the answer. As soon as you can figure out how to put your fire out, the answer is, God, what do I do now? And if you didn't know, the answer is not go online. The answer is not post. The answer is not call up mama. The answer is not call up my sister. The answer is go to God. The answer is not to propagate it like a little butterfly pollinating the garden of the ladies' bathroom at church. The answer is go to God. Some of you shoot yourself in the foot running your mouth in this church with everybody you think can help you, and you never come to the altar with the 100 prayer services we have every month. Because you still want some kind of socialistic Pentecostal handout. What should I do? I think you should shut your mouth and go to the altar. You ladies just running your mouth in the ladies' bathroom. Let me tell you what should go on in there. Use the bathroom, flush, wash your hands, be polite, and go to your station. It's not supposed to be some little carnal dispensary of weird intelligentsia for a bunch of unstable women. We're better than that. Say hi. How was your weekend? How are the kids? Well, I'm just worried. Shut up. Go to the altar. It's that simple. You can't help them. You don't want their burden? Tell them God takes the burden, and you can find God at the altar. You'd be best running your mouth to God and not at nobody else. All right. So they spake of stoning him because the soul of all the people was bitter, every man for his sons and for his daughters. And I point this out, and I like it. I think it's a good point. These men were mighty men of valor, trained with swords and spears and arrows, and they become so retarded, they want to stone him. They go from Bronze Age tactics to Neanderthal tactics. They all have a sword on their hip, and they're just so emotionally blinded, literally emotionally dumb. Rock. Give me a rock. Well, what about the sword? What sword? Rock. They want to stone them. What does that do? If you're really mad, take a sword out, run them through. Somebody to get a dagger, slit his throat. If you really want to, but this is what emotions do. It absolutely negates all of your training. It's like you don't even have any training. This is why you must control your emotions at the first sign that they begin to bubble. You've got to monitor it. You got to watch it, because you know that if you keep visiting it in your mind, it's going to come explosive. And then you'll start encouraging yourself in an evil matter. And you'll start building a momentum in the wrong direction. And every time you revisit it in your mind, it's not going to be right. It's going to be more justified in your favor. And you're going to become more and more moved with whatever vindictive mindset you take, or retribution you take, or withdrawing you take, or I'm a martyr. Nobody. You're like Elijah. Nobody loves God like I do. Yeah, you're a fool. A lot of people love God more than you. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. He said 2 emotional swings is enough. Sorrow and distress. That's enough. He had to encourage himself in the Lord. Nobody was there to encourage him. He didn't have a ladies' restroom. He didn't have a Facebook community. It's just him and God. And he'd been there 1,000 times before. And you have got to learn to get there yourself. I won't always be available to you. I don't want to always be available to you. You shouldn't always want to bring me something, though I don't mind to help you when I can, but if it's not going to help you, what's the point? You're going to have to encourage yourself in God. If you lack courage, then you need to encourage. And so what does that look like? Well, we have several of the Psalms, Psalm 40, Psalm 43, where David said, why are you cast down, O my soul? Hope in God. That means your soul is submitted to you. David, in the Psalms, speaks to himself. Why are you cast down? He's talking to himself. Why are you so discouraged? Why are you so depressed? Why are you so hopeless? Hope in God, which lets us know he had the power before the cross, before the believer's authority, to command himself. He asked himself a hypothetical. Why are you cast down, O my soul? He didn't even give himself time to answer. Hope in God. You're going to have to learn to do that for yourself. It's better than any pill, better than any alcohol, better than any porn, better than any drug. You're going to have to say, what's your problem? Get over yourself. And maybe if we police each other a little bit better, look at somebody and say, you've been sad long enough. Hope in God. Why are you mopey? We don't let it go in our household longer than 5 or 10 minutes. We don't tolerate it. I like joy in my home. I'm not going to let my kids be these little weird emo kids. I like joy in my home. So if one of the kids gets in a funk, we just pile the other kids against them. Somebody go get them some happy hugs. Give them some happy fingers. Do I need to get the happy blanket? Do I need to get the happy pitcher of water? We're going to be happy in this house. We're going to force the issue because in my household, attitude is a choice. And I'm drilling it in my kids now because I don't want them to end up like Americans. I want my kids to choose joy, to choose peace, to choose victory, because they can speak to themselves. And if they have to talk to us, they can. But most of the time, why are you moping? I don't know. No, if there's a reason. And we can hone in on it. Is it because your sister got to do this or your brother got to do that? Is it because I corrected you? Maybe. Well, get over it. You needed the correction. And get over it. Your sister earned it. Or get over it. Your brother needed it. And we don't tolerate. We don't let people feel sorry for themselves. We tell our kids, look at how blessed you are. You have nothing to feel sorry for. You got nothing in the world to feel sorry for yourself about. And neither do any of you. You feel sorry for yourself. I don't know. I got my hair cut this morning, so I'm friends with my barber, and we were just talking family. He's got kids, and we saw this precious little girl walking down the driveway there at his barbershop, and she had to have like this. She's probably 9 years old, had to have like a hanging walker with all these braces on her legs, and her mom was behind her, and she's kind of doing this walking. And I said, look at that. He said, yeah. I said, we ain't got a problem in the world, do we? He said, my problems ain't problems. So when you see a child like that, you realize you got no problems. I said, God bless that lady and her kid. Lord, help them. But I don't know, we magnify the dumbest stuff. Let me just tell you again, if you're on social media, you are wasting your life. You're wasting God's time. There's nothing to benefit you there. It's a tool. No, you're a tool. You don't even know how to use it as a tool. You're kidding yourself. You're hollowing out your soul. You don't use it for God, not to compare to what you do it for other dumb stuff. You're going to have to figure out and pinpoint where the soul suck is coming in. I'm in the process of reading a book called The Anxious Generation. And all the psychology, all the research of the last 15 years says social media and smartphones. And everything skyrocketed in our preteen girls. 2012, 2013, 2015, even before COVID. And all of it goes back to the anxiety of social media. And I'm trying to get you encouraged, and all you do is read this thing and lose all your faith. I'm not worried about you bending your knee to the Antichrist. You're already bowing before him. Here's your wailing wall right here. Oh, and I get it. Whatever you feed on strengthens you or weakens you. So you got to be very careful what you feed on. I mean, nobody's real on this tool anyway. It's all a guise. It's all an avatar. Nobody's legit. Everybody's filtered. Take 1,000 pictures of your family. You're filing for divorce next month, but you're going to act like you got a good family. That one politician borrowed his friend's family so he could look like he had a family, and that was his publicity stunt. He was a Republican, by the way, because you know they're honest. You're going to have to learn to encourage yourself. I can't do it for you. Maybe if you got a good spouse, they can say, hey, encourage yourself. But you and I both know if you don't want encouragement, no encouragement will help you. Proverbs says you can't sing songs to a heavy heart. Nobody wants to hear it. So you can really only encourage those who want to be encouraged. And some of us choose discouragement because we've learned from the time we were a little bitty that it gives us attention. How dare you be that selfish this long? You're supposed to be strong enough to be an encouragement to others. If you're 30, 35, 40 years old and you're still needing attention, good Lord of mercy, what is your problem? You're going to have to learn to encourage yourself and control these emotions if you're going to even begin to run your race, much less finish the thing. So he encouraged himself in the Lord his God. When your emotions are all over the place, whether it's depression, suicide, anxiety, sorrow, grief, jealousy, anger, vengeance, wrath, whatever it is, you got to stop and encourage yourself in God. You're going to have to take your mind off of your Ziklag. Take your mind off of the loss you think you're facing. Take your mind off the murderous threats of your so-called friends and your Facebook community and get everything back on Jesus. Think about everything screaming at David in the moment. He doesn't just have 2 wives gone. He has 600 men who've gone full tilt retard, picking up rocks, growling at him. And he's like, you know what? Let me just take a God moment. Let's take a step back. Can we hold this thought right here? You pick up that. You need a bigger rock if you're going to do something, because I'm going to kill y'all myself. But I'm going to come back over here. Oh, God, where are you cast down, oh, my soul? And guess who had a right to be cast down? And yet he says, I don't have a right. I think we have a right. And that's our retarded problem. Forgive me for keeping using that word, but we ought to be smarter than this by now. I think we can't be encouraged because we still think we have a right to be sad. We still think we have a right to be discouraged. We still think we have a right to be hurt. We still think we have a right to be offended. So therefore, no matter how much time we spend with God, it's not going to work because our bucket got a hole in the bottom. Our bucket don't even have a bottom. Our bucket is just a cone of shame. Hi there. And David said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son, I pray thee, bring me hither the ephod. That's the high priest linen robe. Jewish tradition says within the robe were the Urim and the Thummim, which were these, they don't know what they were, some kind of token that they could inquire in God. They believe that the sages believe that they answered a simple yes, no. Most of the time when you see the ephod inquired of or the Urim and the Thummim inquired of, it's a simple yes, no question. It isn't give me the mailing address. It's should I? Yes. Should I not? No. Should I stay? No. Should I pursue? Yes. We see simple up-down answers given through this thing. Either way, he puts on the linen ephod. He plays priest, but he thinks to encourage himself. And when he encourages himself, he realizes, oh yeah, God. And when he gets, oh yeah, God, he realizes, oh wait, there's still women and children to go after. As long as you stay emotional, you'll always lose the big picture. And that's why the devil loves to activate your emotions that are undisciplined, untrained, because when you're in this melees of emotional stupidity, you'll always lose the big picture. You'll make mountains out of molehills, and we'll find you in the front yard crying. What's wrong? This molehill. Look at this molehill. It's like Kilimanjaro. It's like Everest. It's only because you're down there looking at it with a magnifying glass. Moron, get up. It's the kind of thing the rest of us just step on and squish. But oh no, you're down there magnifying it because you've lost track of God. And David inquired at the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after the troop? Simple yes, no question. Shall I overtake them? And he answered, pursue. Simple yes, no. For thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. We see simple yes, no answers here. Pursue, overtake. Shall I overtake them? Overtake them, and you'll recover all. So David is able to get what he wants in the first place after the emotions have been dealt with. David can't even be a leader to the rest of his men when he's an emotional wreck. And you can't lead anybody when you're an emotional wreck. Because we still haven't solved the problem at hand, which is women and children are kidnapped. And if we sit here at Ziklag still weeping, posting about it, we lose everything, which maybe we secretly want because it gives us more fodder for the post. And there are sickos in this nation who love the attention that calamity brings them. There are mothers in this nation who will poison their children just to have a social media cause. I don't know if you know this, it happens, they poison them with salt, the kids get sick, they start putting them in treatment, they have a GoFundMe, they get attention, they pick up the local media resources, and it makes them feel good because they're weird, sick, demented women. Not that guys don't do the same weird thing too, and they belong in prison and they get all the attention they want there. From Stewie. Stewie has a mullet, by the way. So David went, he and the 600 men that were with him, and came to the brook Bezor, where those that were left behind stayed. And David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 abode behind, which were so faint that they could not go over the brook Bezor. I wonder if they were faint because they were the super emotional batch. Could easily, it's biblical, could easily say, you stay emotional, you will get left behind. Your emotions exhaust you. You know how it is. Weeping is exhausting. Anger is exhausting. Discouragement is exhausting. Paranoia is exhausting. Worrying about what other people think is exhausting. Oh my goodness, it's exhausting. Being angry, being bitter, being jealous, it's exhausting to be mad at your spouse and have to come home and maintain that. Maintain anger, maintain hostility. Because you couldn't just humble yourself and say, I'm sorry for being a jerk. Can we reset this thing? Oh no, you got to maintain that for another 5 or 6 days. Yeah, just sleep on the couch, make her sleep on the couch, just be frustrated, angry, and then complain that she's not intimate with you. It's because you're a jerk and you're cold and you're the problem. It's exhausting. Maybe these 200 losers got left because they had wept harder. Fine, stay back, learn your lesson. We'll go on and we'll recover your wife for you. And when your children want to know where you're at, where's daddy? He's on the other side of Bezor crying like a sissy. You know how your daddy is. Don't be like him. Don't be like the 200, be like the 400. Be like the 40 men of valor. So they pursued. All right. I'm preaching pretty good, running out of time. Quick, go to Luke 17. We see there this example of emotions really just bungling things up. And yet they were under our control. David was able to get a hold of himself. There's no doubt somewhere in that event, that melee, he prayed Psalm 40, Psalm 41, Psalm 43, the 40's in there. Why are you cast down, O my soul? Hope in God. He commanded his emotions and they obeyed him. And you can command your emotions and they'll obey you. Just like we speak to mountains and we speak to storms and we speak to sycamore trees, we have to be willing to pinpoint the emotion when it's sinful and inappropriate and past its expiration date. That's enough of that. That's enough anger. That's enough sorrow. That's enough grief. That's enough bitterness. That's enough paranoia. Enough. I didn't like it the first 17 days. I'm done with it. And then you begin to speak to it and say, nope, shut up. Shut up. I refuse to think that way. I refuse to dwell on that. I refuse to meditate on that. I refuse to even let my mind go there and replay how I should have done it. What is that going to do? You can't go back there. I'm going to put them in their place. Well, number one, you can't relive it. Number two, they don't have a place to go home to. Why are you living there? You can't go forward, dwelling in the back in your mind, trying to, I'm going to be bigger. I'm going to be bigger. No, you're not. Just chill out. Drop the ball, move on. You end up going in circles, trying to look back over your shoulder at what you could have done. Don't. Just move on. Luke 17. Luke 17. Let's talk about another set of emotions. Verse 1. Then said Jesus unto the disciples, it is impossible, but that offenses will come. But woe unto him through whom they come. Some people are just offensive. Those are emotionally unstable people. We would say they have low social IQ. There are those that don't mean to offend, and they're just awkward, or maybe there's a cultural disconnect. And we as Americans are typically pretty gracious with outsiders, and they don't understand stuff, and we're cool with that. But then there are those that just are bulls in china shops, and they're just offensive. It's usually social immaturity, emotional immaturity. And it's impossible but that offenses would come through them, and we have to be prepared to handle it when they step on us. Now, Jesus does offer the balance. He says, woe unto those through whom they come. It were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he cast into the sea than that he should offend one of these little ones. And so these offenses are a lot more severe than you called my mom a fat, or you made a black joke. I was talking about how dark the sky is. Well, that's racist. No, you're just stupid and sensitive. And we can't even say black or white anymore. I feel that's racial. No, you're racial. I'm not sensitive to it. You're sensitive to it. It's exhausting. This is bigger than that. This is causing little Christians to stumble and fall, because it means you're worthy of death. Take a millstone. We have one out here in the parking lot. there in the little garden area. You can see that's even a small one compared to the Middle East, but you can't swim with that. That's 400 or 500 pounds. It took 4 of our guys to fish it out of one of the gullies around here a couple of years ago. The text is offense, and we know that when we get offended, the offense is an emotional activation. To be offended is an activation of emotions. So now we're back on the subject of emotions. He says it's impossible, which means we got to be prepared for it. And our offenses will always show us where we're immature. Wherever you get offended, and we've all got some place we get offended, it shows an immaturity. It shows an emotional instability. It shows where we're thin-skinned instead of thick-skinned. It shows where we're hard-hearted rather than tender-hearted. Because every one of us would respond differently to any given statement in any scenario. And furthermore, most offense has to be learned anyway. You have to learn what a slur is for it to hurt your feelings. You have to learn what is racial to know that it's a racial dog whistle. You have to know that that bump was intentional rather than an accident. You have to learn it, and then you have to be taught how to be mad at it. Because children don't know how to be offended. They just think they were mean to me, and it's left at that. They hurt I fell down. I think they pushed me on purpose. They have to be taught. Boy, stick up for yourself next time. Don't you take that off of him. And that's not going to help your kid any. So we're dealing with emotions, again, because offenses activate emotions. If your emotions are mature, you can't be offended. If your emotions are mature, you can't be offended. Nothing will touch you. We used to quote around here a lot, Psalm 119, 165. Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. So where you're offended at, the love of God's law is not preeminent yet. And the reason you get offended is peace doesn't prevail there. And I give the giant qualifier. I think every one of us has permission for something to slap us out of the blue, and we stumble for a second and realize, what? And then we gather our wits and say, nope, I refuse to be offended. I refuse to take that personal offense. I refuse to accept that. I refuse to bite on that hook, line, and sinker. I'm just going to let that go. I think we all have permission to get slapped, and smacked without expecting it. And go, whoa, what was that? I've told you this story before, but I was in Kenya once. I've been to Kenya a couple times, but on one occasion, we were sightseeing with, we had our tour, not a tour guide, our driver and our translator, then one of the bishops was with us and his family, and we went to go see these rocks, which, of course we went to go see rocks because I wanted to see these rocks. Actually, it was pretty cool. They said, we're going to pass under this giant section of rocks, and there's bats up there. And we had to walk underneath them. Of course, everybody's real nervous, and these are big bats. So your eyes can't adjust because it's daylight. You will pass under this little thing. And I look up, and I can kind of see movement. So I go, and I'm telling you, the roof came alive. And then I realized these were big bats. And then I got a little nervous. I said, all right, let's move right along. Let's move right along. But so we were seeing this place, and as we were coming back out, there were some younger folks who came up to us. And one of the guys was aggressive and really, honestly, my friend, Dr. Miklos, he thought he was like mentally retarded the way this guy was acting. And he was pinching his nose like this and talking funny. And he wanted to shake our hand. And Miklos was like, what's your problem? And I was like, what's your deal? So we could tell that our hosts, the bishop, and then Mandela and, Nelson, but we called him Mandiba, they were uncomfortable. So they stepped up and they shooed them off. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And as we were moving away, I said, what was that about? They said, just keep walking, just keep walking. And they were upset. They witnessed the same thing we witnessed. We were trying to translate the whole encounter, and they were upset. And so as we got outside the park, started moving down towards the bus that we were in, little mini bus, I said, what was that about, Nelson? He said, well, he was pinching his nose to mock the white man's narrow nose. And he was trying to speak in an American accent to mock you. He was saying some very condescending things. And he said, and it angered me. Well, now that I had the translation, I'm getting mad. I'm like, well, we'll go back and fight. I ain't never fought a Kenyan before. I'll take him, we'll hold him up to that bat roost and shake him a little bit. Once I had the interpretation, now my emotions could process it. See, my point is, offense is learned. It has to be translated. It has to be processed. Then it has to be accepted. And Jesus said, it's impossible that these things are going to happen, but you're going to have to do something about it. So, verse 3, take heed to yourselves, which means judge yourself first. Deal with you. Deal with you. Don't blame them. Deal with you. You're the one that took the offense. Offense are like drugs. Just say no. Take heed to yourselves. If your brother trespasses against you, as if to say, if your brother offends you, forgive him. That means you have to go from one emotion of agitation, hurt, offense, to this other emotion called love, mercy, forgiveness, which means you can do it on a dime if you want to. If you want to. And you can't say, it just hurts so bad. You don't understand. It just hurts so bad. Jesus says, judge yourself, and if your brother offends, forgive. He says, rebuke him, and if he repent, forgive him. So here's the crazy thing. You got to go from this emotion of offense to now you got to have this confrontation. And you know, confrontation is often even more uncomfortable. So here's another emotion. So I'm hurt, Lord. Now you want me to be uncomfortable. I could make this worse, so now I've got fear. And in the end, if it works, I got to forgive. That's 4 stupid emotions, Lord. I'd rather just be offended and cut them out of my life. Well, why don't you do that with social media? It offends you more than anything else in your life. It's the thing you should pluck your eye out with. It's the thing you should cut your hand off for. Why don't you cut off social media as much as you sinned against your God on that hellhole? But no, you'll cut your brother and sister of Christ off. And they offended me once. Did you even ask them what they meant by what they said? I mean, it's obvious social media wants to rape your soul, but you won't cut that off. Oh no, you're in love with that thing. You'll forgive it, cut it some mercy. Love you some Zuckerberg. Now, we have all these emotions here. So you got to go from being offended to now you got to have a little bit of discomfort and rebuke. And now if he repents, which means he activates an emotion called sorrow, now you got to activate a new emotion called mercy. Ugh. This is emotional stability. What we demonstrate and practice daily is emotional instability. And if you trespass against these 7 times in a day, which means you got to run through that emotional cycle 7 times in a day, which means you were also offended 7 times in a day, which means you didn't get over it the first time. If he trespass against these 7 times in a day, and 7 times in a day turn again to these saying, I repent. Well, it doesn't even say he rebuked him the other 7 times. His own heart smote him. I'm sorry, I did it again. Jesus says, you shall forgive him. So I get hurt 7 more times. That brings a total of 8. And it almost looks like the offender learned his lesson the first time. You didn't. I said it again, didn't I? Please forgive me. And then an hour later, I said it again. Please forgive me. He's stabilizing his emotions because he knows how to use them biblically every time. And this person is still like, I don't want to forgive. I don't want to forgive. I want to be offended. I like having a grudge. I like being able to excuse my behavior. You don't understand. I've been hurt. I'll take a number and get in line. What country do you live in again? Oh, the best one? It's so hard here. Honey, you don't know hard. Good Lord of mercy. How hard's Cuba, Gadiel? It was hard. You like being here? Oh, I take all the offense I can get if I can stay here. And the apostle said unto the Lord, increase our faith. Because it takes faith to command your emotions. Like walking on water, that ain't hard. Raising the dead, we do that all day long. Forgive, stabilizing our emotions, increase our faith. That's the mountain you got to move most of the time, is your own heart. You got this mountain of offense, and you got to cast it into the sea. You got this mountain of anger, you got to cast it in the sea. You got this mountain of discomfort, and you got to command it to get out of your way so you can obey the Lord. But they rarely asked for faith. Rarely did they find something difficult. But the forgiveness thing was a call for, oh God, increase our faith. It still holds true to this day. It takes faith. What is faith? It speaks. It speaks to mountains. And then he says, if you had faith as a grain of a mustard seed, you might say unto the sycamore tree. Be thou plucked up by the root, be thou planted in the sea, and it should obey you. Now, I've taught this, I think, recently, and I tell you the story that when Pastor Ingolf taught this 10 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago, Pastor Ingolf, our German friend, he comes to us once a year. He taught this passage 2 years in a row. And the second year he taught it, I began to be a little critical of him. And I thought, man, you just taught this same passage last year. And as I was kind of grumbling in my heart, he took it a different direction. He began to talk about the sycamore tree and its tenacious root system and how it represented offense and unforgiveness in your heart. And I was criticizing Pastor Ingolf, just saying, I know he knows more than this. Maybe he should take better notes so he doesn't preach the same sermon in the same church 2 years in a row. Just, petty stuff. Kind of like you guys do. Oh, here we go again. Here we go again. Oh, here he is on this again. When I got more stuff to teach, you just don't do the last 1,000 things I taught. So as I'm bellyaching in my heart, and I thought, well, he does travel a lot. He's in a lot of churches. How could he possibly remember that? The Lord speaks to me and says, you've been offended at Manda for 8 years. And the whole context of this passage is offense. And he took me right to the apartment that we no longer lived in, to where she did something that offended me. And I would have argued that I hadn't been offended in a long time, but the Lord showed me, no, you've been offended at her, holding a grudge against her for 8 years. And that's an emotional thing. Those roots of bitterness, those roots of unforgiveness had gone down tenaciously into the soil. And so the true botany behind the sycamore tree is that you can't kill it by cutting it down, because it shoots up suckers. And because it has a big base and a massive root system, those suckers grow back violently. But also, it's really the mulberry tree, the black mulberry tree. The black mulberry tree, its fruit stains worse than any fruit in Palestine, which talks a lot about bitterness. It just stains everything. Stains worse than cherries, stains worse than grapes. The fruit of it, the fruit of bitterness, stains. So you can't just get rid of the fruit. You can't just cut the limbs off. You prune them back, they'll grow back. You can't just cut it down. The only way to technically kill a sycamore tree is to pour salt water on its roots and poison it. And Jesus is saying the same thing. Speak to this thing. Get it uprooted. Get it cast into the Sea of Galilee. It's salt water. It'll kill it. So this is faith in action. We're speaking to our emotions. Shut up, unforgiveness. Shut up. We're done bellyaching about not getting the Buck Rogers ray gun at our 10th Christmas. Every child has some petty thing they hold over their parents' head. Every petty, hairy baby called an adult, petty, has something they hold over their parents. I could have been a better adult despite my training, my intellectualism, and all my education. I could have been a better adult if mommy and daddy had been better 30 years ago. Well, keep waiting. It's going to get better, I bet. You just keep living back there. Just keep holding your breath. I still tease my dad. 1986. I was 10 years old. How do I remember that? Because this is my petty thing. Actually, it's a joke now. Frank's not in here. Maybe Joe will remember. Gertie remember. What did I want, Gertie? The G.I. Joe aircraft carrier. Every boy wanted the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier. Things like 8 feet long. My friend Matt McKenzie, whose daddy was a doctor, he got one. It took up the whole pool table. It's a big toy. I wanted it. Daddy, I want it. Daddy, I want it. Daddy, I want it. I don't remember how much it cost back in 86, maybe $300, $400. It's a big toy. What I got for Christmas that year was the Cobra hydroplane and the G.I. Joe oil derrick, because I think they figured you mix the two together, it's basically a redneck aircraft carrier. And I remember we were in Amite, Louisiana that Christmas, and I'm like, they're going to do it because my parents love me. They're going to pull this one out. And I come into Granny and Papa's living room, and I'm like, oh, you serious? We're supposed to do the math on that thing and combine it? Were they supposed to make a baby and I wait 20 years for it to grow up and it's an aircraft carrier? I remember going, I know what they were thinking, that these two equal an aircraft carrier. And a hydrofoil boat that's 2 feet long and a derrick that's a foot and a half, that ain't an aircraft carrier. So honestly, almost every year for 30 years, I'll send my dad eBay. Hey, Dad, that aircraft carrier, This is the year to get it. It's $5,000 this year, so you may want to hop on it. And he usually says something like, well, son, you're not the boy anymore. So he makes some little smart aleck remark that makes me want to go back to therapy again. Yeah. We have the authority to speak to anything, any unforgiveness, any vindictive root. We have the authority to speak to it and say, be thou removed, be thou plucked up, be thou cast into the sea. Now, we know that, but we got to do it. Now here, I just saw this in South Dakota because I taught part of this passage out there. And here, then the Lord keeps talking and you're like, what? How do we go from sycamine trees to servants feeding cows? Because it's all one continuous sermon. And the subject's all emotional stability. He said, but which of you, which is a Greek expression that implies everybody's going to say, none of us, Lord, because it's the obvious no. But which of you, having a servant, plowing or feeding cattle, will say unto him by and by, when he is come from the field, go and sit down to meat? And will not rather say unto him, make ready wherewith I may sup, and gird thyself and serve me till I have eaten and drunken, and afterward you shall eat and drink. He's applying the servant picture to your emotions. Your emotions do one thing, and whenever you want, you just reassign them, because you're the master. You don't ever let them just come in and do what they want to do. He just came in from feeding the cows. You're going to let him go feed himself? No. I trow not, King James says. That's the application of which of you? None of you would do this. None of you would let your servants do whatever they want to. You would command them to do what you told them to do. And the whole context is your emotions. Your emotions serve a cow, feed a cow. And then when you're done doing that, we're going to assign you over here. And you don't get to do anything you want to do till I give you permission to do what you want to do, because you're my servant. The opposite of that is, I just don't feel like it. I just hurt so much. I just been so bitter. I've been so violated. I'm sorry. Tell that guy to gird himself and go fix you some dinner, because you're not done with him yet. You're supposed to command your emotions. Will not rather, verse 8, say unto him, make ready wherewith I may sup. Gird yourself, serve me till I have eaten and drunken, and afterward you eat and drink. When I'm done doing something with you, you can go relax. But until I'm done with you, you're going to obey me. That's how we speak to our emotions. Emotions, you don't have permission to be offended at this anymore. Emotions, you don't have permission to be sad that you didn't get the aircraft carrier in '86. Get over that. You're a grown man. Get over the missing Buck Rogers ray gun. Get over the fact that your daddy worked a lot to put your butt through college. Get over the fact that whatever. Get over the fact that your gene pool ain't as deep as you wish it could be. We got dietary science. Fix it yourself. Yes. You got to command your emotions. Does he thank the servant because he did the things which were commanded him? No. Oh, I'm so thankful, forgiveness, you obeyed me. I don't tell my emotions thank you. They serve me. They are my slaves. We don't think that way in this nation. Oprah taught us elsewise. Psychology taught us elsewise. I'm okay, you're okay. How did that make you feel? Which is an okay question as long as you said sinful. It made me feel sinful. And then I saw in the word when I shouldn't feel that way, and I commanded it, and I rebuked it, and now I'm marching with God. So, I got over that. Why are we talking about it? Do you need help with it, sir? So likewise you, when you shall have done all those things which are commanded you, you will say, we unprofitable servants. We have done that which was our duty to do. Which is what? Go back to verse 3. Forgive. The only way you can obey commandments is if you command the emotions that prevent you from obeying the commandments. Your emotions, the biggest battle we have is between our ears. And with all the anxiety and all the mental illness, what we're dealing with is our mind and our emotions more than anything. And emotions are very powerful. People chase pleasure. They chase acceptance. And they chase it because it doesn't obey them. You don't have to chase pleasure or acceptance. You command it to come to you. You don't have to chase peace. You command it to come to you. You don't have to chase joy. You command it to come to you. You don't have to have everything the world has to be stable. You can have stability where you are because you have authority over your emotions and you walk with the living God. And until you master that or begin to even move that direction, you'll be just as tossed and driven with the winds as every pagan out there who's posting heavily filtered pictures, lying about their family, just to be liked by 150 followers they don't even know. None of those people have a real life. None of them have a real life. They are social media whores. They are the product. Even a Muslim, I was on a flight from London to Riyadh. I was talking with this Bangladeshi Muslim. He says, what is wrong with this young generation of women? He's a Bangladeshi accountant in London, going back home to Bangladesh through Riyadh. We had a wonderful theological discussion on Islam and Christianity. He said, what was the term he used? Where's the respect? Where's the self-respect of this generation on social media? They've made themselves the product. He said they're prostituting themselves for acceptance. He said, where are their parents telling them they're worth it? I'm looking at this Muslim saying, you're better than most of the pastors I know. You have it dialed in, man. It bugs me that your theology is way tighter than ours. He said, where are their parents? Where's the father telling this girl she's beautiful and doesn't need to be out there trolling like a whore? There's a Muslim Bangladeshi accountant said to me. I said, sir, man, you're spot on. I agree with you 100%. Likewise ye, verse 10, and we'll wrap it up here. When you shall have done all those things which are commanded you, you won't be able to do them without taking control of your emotions. You will say, we are unprofitable servants. We don't pat ourselves on the back because things don't offend us anymore. That's bare minimum. Amen. We don't pat ourselves on the back because, yay, we got the victory over hating mom and dad. That's the bare minimum. What you say is, nope, we're unprofitable. That means we didn't even make you a profit. We did the bare minimum. Here was budget. We just met the budget. Sorry, sir, there was no profit. I didn't work hard enough to be profitable. I worked hard enough to meet the bare minimum. We made budget today. No surplus for you, sir. You don't get to go home and buy something nicer. I just did the bare minimum that my job requirement demanded. That to me is an insult. That's not praiseworthy. Now, it's better than being an American. It's better than being emotionally tossed and driven of every wind of doctrine, but it's not praiseworthy. And that's what the Lord's saying. It's not praiseworthy. You're not going to say, I thank you. You're not going to demand thanks. You're going to say, I've done that which was my duty. I'm unprofitable. We have done that which was our duty. So what's our duty? We control our emotions. We speak to them. We find out what the Word of God has to say in every scenario. And I understand sometimes it's muddy, so get around somebody who's not in your mud, who can point out where you need to move to. When you're on fire, it's hard to find the fire extinguisher. Find somebody who's not on fire and say, where's the extinguisher? But you can't keep going around just up and down and up and down and up and squirrely and paranoid and fearful and timid and anxious and full of anxiety and depressed and sorrowful and mourning and grieving and angry and offended. Good Lord, that's exhausting. And that's all before you have your coffee in the morning. And then and then you get the mug that says, I'm horrible before I have my coffee. No, you're horrible after your coffee. You're just caffeinated and horrible. You just mean fast. Amen. All right, that's enough. I got to preserve my voice. I got a wedding to do, apparently. We learn anything? Yes, sir. Good. You going to do anything with it? Yes, sir. Good. You'll be able to tell when the first offense comes tomorrow. You really will. I preach this. You're going to get tested. In fact, we're going to pray here in a minute. Lord, test me. I took good notes. Test me. And the Lord will find somebody who knows the devil will find somebody who knows exactly what your button is. And watch it activate, and you're going to have to arrest it and say, nope, nope, nope. I resist this. I'm going to beat this emotion. That could be the one that's been causing all of your hindrance all these years. It's a shame that the devil knows us better than we do. So we've got to command these emotions. Otherwise, you won't recover Ziklag, you won't recover your family, you won't be able to forgive, and you won't be able to be a worthy servant. All these things we ought to be. All right? Let's bow our heads here. We'll pray and pray something together. Father, I thank you for helping us tonight. Thank you for helping my voice. We receive this word, Lord, that helps us to control our emotions in good times and in bad times, in the hostility. Your word promises us in the last days, offense shall abound. Your word promises us that because offense shall abound, because lawlessness shall abound, many shall be offended, and the love of many will wax cold. And we're living in those days, so we better have more emotional stability than ever before. May we take nothing personal. May we take nothing personal. May we take nothing personal. Help us, Lord, to be mature. And I pray, Lord, I've said something that was written down that they'll go back to later and say, nope, that's what the Lord emphasized in that sermon. I needed that. And may we be practitioners of the doctrine we learn, not just note takers. May we practice what we learn. May we practice what we learn in Jesus' name. Let's pray this together. Father, in Jesus' name, I hear what you're saying. I will get a hold of my emotions. I see they're my servant. I will command them. I will tell them what to do. I'll tell them when to stand down. I'll tell them when to stand up. Balance me emotionally, Lord, and may my emotions glorify you. Test me, Lord. You know what I can handle, but let's prove this thing. I trust you, Father. Bring to remembrance this sermon and these verses in my time of trial. In Jesus' name, amen.